Australians of Reddit, what is the scariest encounter you've had with one of the native animals? I had just come home after a long bicycle ride. I took my shoes off and just forgot to bring them inside afterwards. 2 days later I was about to go on another bicycle ride, so needed my shoes. I put my left one on with no problems, but felt something a little squishy when putting my foot into my right shoe. I immediately took my foot out to discover it to be covered in at least 100 baby spiders, and a larger redback spider came scuttling out of the shoe. Don't leave your shoes outside, or at the very least check them, unlike me. American here. My wife had us bring home some chairs we found on the curb. My shoes got taken off and sat next to the new furniture. The next day I put them on, and it feels like I have a rock in my shoe. I take it off and shake it. A huge pastel spider falls out. It was yellow and pink, which means whatever kind it was lived in flowery areas. I had stood on this thing with all 220 pounds of my weight, and it wasn't even harmed. I bashed it with the shoe 3 times. It just kept walking. Finally I put the shoe top of it and stood on the shoe with both feet, and that finally did it. I don't know what kind it was, but clearly if had bitten me, I'd be a superhero by now. UK here. I was fast asleep in bed one night when I felt something tickling across my face. Half awake at this point, I reached up and smacked myself in the face, upon which I realized it was a squishy strawberry sweet with a liquid center. Satisfied, I went back to sleep. The next morning I found a squished spider right next to my mouth on the pillow. It was not, in fact, a squishy strawberry sweet with a liquid center as I had believed the night before. It was my actual worst nightmare come true. Thank God we don't have venomous spiders in the UK. I was driving on a straight unsealed road through barren land and had not seen anything on the road or to either side for about half an hour when I had to decelerate heavily to avoid driving into a group of half a dozen emus who were startled and who scattered in all directions. I think you mean they took military action and stealthily dispersed as the enemy approached from the south. They never signed a declaration of peace. The war rages on for the evasive emu population. The worst thing with emus is when they run in front of your car for a while then cut right across in front of you. It may work against predators, but judging from all the corpses on that stretch of outback highway, it doesn't work so well against trucks. War flashbacks intensifies. While I was mowing, saw a snake. Thought it was a red-bellied black snake. Get them all the time. So I took a stick and hit the ground near it to scare it off. Fucking thing arced up, hissed and charged at me. I took off. It was a tiger snake. They're aggressive bastards too. Had one rear up at me when I was looking for my ball at the golf course one day. I'll let him keep it. Dude, I hear a lot of people talking about how North American snakes, both non and venomous, chase them and were aggressive and have to really poo-poo them, since our snakes just want to take off and be let alone. Aussie snakes though, nope, they 300% want to wreck your day for looking at them wrong. Got chased by a black mamba. And those motherfuckers can climb trees and swim too. If it wasn't for being close to the tractor I probably wouldn't be typing this right now. And yeah, they are basically as fast as a normal human can run. Africa, one more thing, they will fuck you up just to fuck you up. No provocation needed. Like a polar bear of the reptile world. When I was studying abroad in the sunny coast, I went for a jog and had a brown snake slither in front of me on the trail. I don't know for sure what kind of snake it was, but it was colored brown. All I could think was if I die 5,000 miles from home my mom is gonna be pissed. I'm still annoyed that it's called a brown snake. The fucker is venomous as all hell. Let's just call it a brown snake. Nothing to see here. All it is brown. Came home from work and went to step outside to enjoy the garden when I noticed an intense buzzing. I looked down and there's a spider wasp and a huntsman spider having a Godzilla, King of the Monsters showdown, wrestling all over the patio area. The spider wasp stung the huntsman into submission and dragged it over to a hole in the wall. I later learned that the spider wasp lays her eggs in the barely living body and uses it as an incubator. Nice. In another huntsman incident, the one I keep in my garage dropped into my lap from the sun visor in my car as I reversed out of my driveway. I screamed for a bit before scooping him up and popping him back in the garage. I warned him not to get in my car again. Anyone watching would have found a grown man lecturing a fucking huge spider a bit weird. I do generally like them though, hence not killing it. I've also been chased by an emu while cycling a few times. They're fucking deranged. I DK about the rest of the world, but most Aussies are pretty impartial about huntsmen. Especially because they're non-lethal and they just like killing other spiders. That's something we can both agree on as roommates. I'd rather let a huntsman live in my house and maybe risk a peasant bite. vs lol huntsman boy not killing the redbacks or the infamous Sydney funnel web, which will kill you insanely quick. And this is why I'll never go to Australia. Aren't those things the size of basketballs? I screamed and hurdled a couch while 8 months pregnant because a wolf spider was on the floor. One of my roommates screamed and dropped a phone book on it. It stayed that was for 2 weeks until a maintenance guy had to come over for something else, and we all panicked when he tried to move it. He cleaned it up for us while grumbling under his breath lol. Lived in the outback. Was just minding my own business walking past the local cinema and a 6-foot emu came running out from behind a tree and nearly knocked me down. Scared the absolute crap out of me. Follow up, emus were not supposed to be in the township. There was a fence to keep them out, so town services had to forcibly evict it. They achieved this by driving up close to it, throwing a noose around its neck, quickly winding up the windows and slowly escorting it out of town. Bad idea. They are surprisingly strong. And it kicked in the whole side of the vehicle in the process. They must have been a rebel faction from the Great Emu War. Came home after 2 weeks away. My parents picked me up, unloaded my suitcase, loaded it up themselves, then left on holidays. That night, I was sleeping on my stomach, and a possum came in through the window and landed on the soles of my feet. I'm guessing he had pushed through the flat screen while I was away and had been sleeping in my room. All I knew is something big and hairy landed on me. I lashed out and he went flying across the room. I left pretty quick and slept on the couch. Another one didn't scare me, but the wife. I saw 2 or 3 baby huntsman spiders about the size of a pinhead outside my bedroom. I saw maybe a dozen more in my bedroom. Then I walked into my nsfw. Huntsmans have about 200 babies at a time, and the remaining 185 were all in there hanging out. The wife made me go out at 11 PM for bug spray and still didn't sleep in the bedroom for another 4 nights. When I was younger our basement wasn't sealed properly, so it was like the Wild West of spiderdom when you were down there trying to watch TV. Wolf spiders everywhere trying to fight for dominance against giant brown house spiders and we were the civilian casualties. It took my brother getting bit on the balls by a hobo spider before my parents finally sealed it all up and we went on a spider crusade. I once wandered toward the bathroom at 2 AM, flipped on the light to discover 200 of the little buggers on the hallway ceiling. Sprayed bug spray at them. They all started to rappel downwards on their spidery silky web simultaneously. If I hadn't needed to use the lube before that, I certainly did afterwards. About 5 years ago I was fully envenomated by a king brown while working on a remote mine site in the Pilbara, Washington. I had all sorts of side effects from the antivenin, including blindness. It took 2 years to fully recover. I'd like to know more please. What was the first symptom of the venom you noticed? Of the venom itself. Photophobic headaches and nausea within about 5 to 10 minutes. Limited gross muscle movement and O2 saturation dropped. After about an hour, I could feel the venom traveling through my system, particularly in my groin, kidneys, and glands. I feel so bad for you. I have photophobia and I know how about the headaches are, even temporarily. I don't want to ask what it feels like to have snake venom coursing through your groin. But oh fuck that, what the hell did it feel like to have snake venom coursing through your groin? Hot razor blades. A leech attached itself to my eyeball while I was hiking in the rainforest. My friends wanted to piss on it or light a match over it, but neither solution seemed ideal. So I waited while it wiggled about, filled up with blood, and finally dropped off an hour later. The following week I went on a date with one of the guys I met on that hike, even though I still had a zombie eye from the leech bite 10 years on. Last year, he and I went back to the place where he first looked me in the eye with that leech wiggling about, and we were married in the rainforest with our friends standing by. My mother-in-law called me over to her house because she thought her cat had been bitten by a brown snake. She asked me to bring a shovel. I drove over and found the snake in the backyard. I whacked that thing as hard as I could 10 times with the flat side of the shovel. The snake reared up a couple times until it slumped into a heap, bleeding. I put the snake in a plastic bag and tied it shut. I placed it between my legs while wife drove to the vet to get the cat checked out. I brought the snake so the vet could identify if it was a brown snake. When we arrived, the vet had just completed surgery on a dog and laid the dog on the floor. They opened the bag and the snake slithered off the table onto the floor and started moving toward the dog. A nurse covered the snake with a box and got a hammer. She later smashed its head with the hammer. I seriously couldn't believe it was still alive after the beating I gave it. Now I know I should have hit it with the edge of the shovel, cutting its head. Edit. Yes, it was a brown snake. And yes, both the cat and dog were fine. Turns out the cat wasn't bitten after all. Also, knowing what I know now, I would not attempt to kill a brown snake anymore. I would call a professional to handle it. In bed, felt something scutter over my chest. Turned on the light. Saw nothing. Then as I went to turn the light off, saw a giant fucking huntsman crawl under the mattress. I was so tired that I left it, but it still freaks me the fuck out. Giant fucking huntsman. Just left it. I love how casual that is. I would be stripping to my undies, smearing ketchup war paint on my cheeks, and grabbing my chopstick harpoon. You see huntsman spiders a fair bit and they are pretty easy to identify and are largely harmless to humans. I'll leave a huntsman alone, but if I can't identify it, it dies. I'm not about to sit here and count how many red stripes this big fuck off spider has. You dead. God made you look that scary for a reason and I'm not gonna disobey him. Okay, school canoeing camp out on the Murray River 6+ hours from civilization, taking a shit in a hole in the dark. Loud thumping behind me, getting closer and closer and closer. Fucking kangaroos, just seeing what's up, best shit I ever had. Walking through long grass like a moron with friends. Accosted by a large brown snake, turns out I can run pretty fast. Dad clearing weeds out the back of my parents' house, accosted by a large brown snake, fastest I have ever seen Dad move. Neighbor knocks on our door. Tell us he just saw a large brown snake go into our yard. Dad goes to look, accosted by a large brown snake. Neighbor runs it over as he is backing out the driveway. At friends' house, his dad starts getting excited, accosted by a large brown snake on the front lawn, kills it with a shovel in some stubby shorts and thongs. Way too casual about it. Largest / thickest snake I've seen in person to this day. Old boy just chopped it into 3 bits with a tiny shovel. Basically, you don't have to look far for a poisonous snake. My neighbor's face when she came running, shouting at me not to check my litter box. She'd just seen a brown snake crawl in there. My fastest walk to work, because I kicked a tiger snake thinking it was a stick, and it had a go at my feet. Thank goodness for dock boots. Going for a swim with my new dog, who splashed like a mad dog in the water, only to get out and be told someone just saw a croc hanging around. Fishing off the beach at night and going to gaff for my mate, and a 6 feet bronzy swam past was what was on the line. I'm not from Australia, but lived in Brisbane for a year while studying abroad. Was walking to the bars with a friend in the evening, quite dark out even on suburb city streets, so I pulled out my smartphone camera light. Just as I do so, I pan up to rustling in a nearby tree, and there is a giant bat on a tree that turns around and spreads its wings like it's Batman. We ran out of there damn fast. After that, along with spider webs, I no longer walk on sidewalks into the suburbs. Even during the day, we've got tons of bats near us. They like eating the fruit in our palm trees. They are really cute and fascinate our cats. Lol. Brother, tell us how to soar amongst the stars as you do. Please whisper your secrets to us, your cats, probably. My cat decided to bring a live baby snake into the house. Thanks Bailey. Baby snake do do do. Baby snake do do do. Sorry, I'll show myself out. I used to live in the country on a 4,000-acre farm, so it wasn't unusual that if go out riding and find somewhere new. Anyway, this one time, I'd saddled up my horse, told my foster family the direction I planned to take, and I was off. It was a pretty pleasant ride in summer, but it actually wasn't too hot, which isn't common in Australia. There's usually only 2 seasons in Australia, freezy at its off, or bloody oath it's hot, so finding the right balance at the right time is like winning the lottery. So there I was, plodding along on my horse, when I come to a bunch of eucalyptus trees. They are not uncommon, but I hate the smell, which is why they are always so memorable. Anyway, I start to feel like I'm being watched, but I shrug, thinking it's just a stray roo in the distance. I don't have the greatest eyesight, and at this point, I didn't have glasses, or maybe an echidna, because my horse was getting a little antsy. I do my best to calm her down, and we move on. The next few seconds felt like a lifetime. I felt something sharp in my back, and added weight, and I obviously freaked out. What the hell had just happened? I try to look over my shoulder the best I can, and I'm greeted with the snarling, toothy snarl of a drop bear. I do my best to grab at it while trying to keep in the saddle, because at this point, my horse knew what was going on, and she was going mad like a bronco. She threw both me and the bear, and thankfully, the thud from hitting the ground was enough to send it speeding away and back into the trees. Safe to say, I rode back home as fast as I could, but I still have the claw marks to this day, exactly in the shape of the Southern Cross. Scariest day of my life. Came looking for the drop bears, wasn't disappointed. I'm worried it is too far down. Tourists need to know. We are so used to them they are barely discussed. Kind of like earthquakes in Japanese literature. 3 dingus rolled up on me and my sisters on Fraser Island. Dad chased them off with a big stick before they could do anything besides make all 3 of us shit ourselves. My sister-in-law got circled by dingus there, and they herded her into the water. Luckily someone was walking along and chased them off. Being swooped by magpies and even plovers. They are very territorial and annoying as fuck. When they swoop, they don't generally hit you, but get close enough for you to hear them swoop next to your head. That's literally the worst thing about spring. Usually they won't hit you, but I've definitely been hit before and it ain't fun, mayo. Nearly lost an eye to a magpie as a kid. Pecked right in the corner of my eye. Wildlife guy who came to try and remove it said I was wearing their favorite color, red or blue, can't remember which. Are these magpies Crips or Bloods? Woke up in the middle of the night and walked half asleep into the kitchen for a drink. Turned the light on and am greeted by hundreds and hundreds of baby spiders, about the size of your pinky nail, on every surface of the kitchen. There were tiny webs like streamers cascading from the ceiling, and they were coming out of every crack and crevice like a fucking horror movie. I shut the kitchen door behind me to try and stop them infesting the rest of the house, and sprayed the entire contents of the 4 cans of bug spray I had, both surface spray and flying insect spray. After the first can I had to keep exiting the room to breath, but I sprayed until I couldn't see anything moving anymore, and then contemplated going to buy more spray. I had to throw out every item of food that wasn't sealed and wash the entire kitchen contents, including the walls where hundreds of little black dots made up the mass grave of baby spider carcasses. I'm not afraid of spiders, and it's common here to often find bugs inside. We have a lot of bugs and our houses aren't generally sealed up very well, but damn, that was the stuff of nightmares. Still makes my skin crawl thinking about it. Have you considered moving to IDK, another country? Antarctica maybe? Was down at a lodge by a lake with some friends, and we brought 1 girl's 2 dogs, big dogs, bryads. Anyway, it was evening and the dogs start going crazy, so we look outside to see what's going, and there's a whole mob of kangaroos, like at least 15, all just standing in the trees near our little lodge. IDK how, but one of the dogs opened the gate and they both went running after the roos, fully chasing them, going wild, barking and shit me, and my friends had to sprint after the kangaroos to try and get the dogs back. The dogs somehow cornered them, but weren't moving, no matter how much we called them. So we had to go up to the roost to get the dogs. Had a stare off with one of them, was shit scared full, thought it was gonna punch me in the face. Bloody terrifying. You didn't have to punch the kangaroo to get him to release the dog, did you? Saw a video of exactly that one time. Nah, thank god it didn't come to that. He didn't have the dog, was just kind of staring him down. But I don't think I could take a kangaroo if it came down to it anyway, hahaha. Hubby and a couple of mates were swimming in the dam in their jocks when someone yelled out crocodile, but it was an 8 feet black snake swimming out after them on top of the water. Hubby went back to the gum tree to get his clothes and the black snake had curled up next to their pile of clothes. They walked about 2 miles back home in wet jocks, barefoot. The three of them went back on the tractor with a shotgun, but couldn't find the snake. He also reckons he saw a black panther in the bush, but I'm skeptical. I was sleeping in my bed and suddenly woke up for no reason. I looked around for a bit before noticing the largest huntsman spider I had ever seen in my life clinging to the ceiling right over my head, and as soon as I saw it I panicked and leaped out of bed, and not 10 seconds later the spider had dropped down onto my pillow right where my head would have been. That incident literally gave me arachnophobia. Jesus Christ, thank you for triggering this wonderful childhood memory that I had joyfully buried deep into my subconscious until this moment. One of my childhood friends lived on a big farm in Wa, and we'd spend most of the holidays staying at her place doing whatever farm related mischief 2 8-year-olds could get up to all day, then passing out like the dead. Anyway, one morning I woke up and she was sitting on the floor in the middle of the room staring at me. My immediate reaction was "What the shit are you doing?" She pointed behind me at the biggest goddamn huntsman I had ever seen, a few inches from my head, just relaxing on the wall having a grand old time. I asked her why the fuck she didn't poke me and get me out of bed, and preferably to another planet, far away from that monstrosity, and she replied back, "Because a minute ago it was on your face." I caught a fish once while fishing down on the wharf on the Sapphire Coast, a kind of creature which when plumbed from the depths is an affront to God. Its existence was distressing. It was black. Blacker than the darkest black hole, dead pixels on a monitor, the darkest depths, and I cannot stress this enough. Black. It had eyes which bulged outward like black orbs of despair, no pupils, no iris, no reflection off the surface, just an imposing black. The only exception was vertical stripes in its sides. Remembering it makes me cringe. The stripes were a matte, uranium, vomit, poison, zombie flesh, decay green. Below its eyes it had a mouth which gaped as wide as its body, and inside it was blacker than the darkest night. The final feature was its spines. They were 15 to 20 centimeters long and ran up from its back and flanks. These webbed spines were a centimeter thick. The webbing wasn't part of the fish though. The webbing was the translucent brown black sludge with the consistency of Kai jelly which the fish was excreting over itself, probably a poisonous coating for the spines. Why is this scary? Because I spent 3 years afterwards trying to identify it. There was nothing on the internet or books. I went through local fishing guides, government publications on pests, all the literature, and nothing. I don't have a photo sadly, as this was 10 or 12 years ago. Had a few run-ins with brown snakes, but that's always an "oh shit, stand still until they leave" kinda situation. They mind their own business and usually just bail if they know you're there. Sure, they're super venomous, but from their point of view you're a massive thing that might be a predator and they don't want to stick around to find out. The scariest wildlife encounter for me by far though was Billy. Billy was a huntsman that lived in my car's driver's side mirror. I'd see him every now and then. He'd usually crawl into the gap between the mirror and the casing whenever I opened the door, or just hang out on the mirror itself until I started the car and the vibration spooked him back into the mirror casing. He was chill, never really bothered me, ate the previous tenants, smaller, less friendly spiders, and I'd like to think we were becoming fast friends. At the time I was working long hours at a nightclub and would head home at like 6 AM, usually dead on my feet. The drive home was always a blur. This particular morning I was in full routine mode. Get in the car, roll a cigarette, put down the window, light it, start the car, head home. While I was leaving the almost empty car park, Billy made his move. Billy climbed across from the mirror, through the open window, and onto my dashboard, before I even knew he was there. By the time I saw him, he was crawling onto my steering wheel and breaking every boundary we had set in our friendship. The mirror was his space, the car itself was mine. My knee-jerk sleep-deprived response was to jerk the wheel to get him off, and with my attention completely on Billy I didn't see the one other person in the car park who was walking to their car. When jerking the wheel didn't move him, I flicked Billy off the wheel and straight back out the window. Did I hit the other person? No, I missed them by about 5 meters, but the scary parts here were that my gut reaction was to jerk the wheel, which is so ridiculously stupid, and that I didn't see the other person because I was distracted. I could have hit them. I got lucky, and it was a bit of a wake-up call for me about driving tired. I don't know the full story here from Bill's perspective, but at the time it looked like he was pushed to his breaking point. In the moment I thought it was jealousy of how much space I had in the car compared to his little home and the mirror casing, but looking back on it, there are a lot of reasons he might have wanted to come in. He might have been cold, or curious, or just wanting to come say hi. He was a chill spider and really easy to get along with. I should have given him the benefit of the doubt. I regret my rash decisions, because now I'll never know. I never saw Billy again after that morning, but I hope he's found another car to live in with someone who treats him right. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that bell to turn on notifications, so you'll be sure to know when the next video comes out. Want to watch some more? Check out my other videos. I really do appreciate everyone who helps make these videos possible. And as always, thanks for watching.